Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Now, I've talked before many times how impactful hypnotherapy can be in helping you realize things, move your life forward, all of that. I'm going to share a session I had with this woman just a few days ago, and some clarity that I got from it, profound. And she helps people with this all the time in many different ways. And she's back with us. Marianne Hedges Hennigar is on the program. Welcome back. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic, enjoying the blue peaks of blue skies and the novelty of our lovely earthquake.
Yeah, it's, every day's different. And interesting here in the New York area, 4.8 earthquake. Plus, we're in a Mercury retrograde astrologically. And then Monday, we have an eclipse with a full moon. Wow, doesn't get any better than that.
So exciting. I would say that we're having astronomical and amazing shifts going on too, for sure.
Literally shifting of plates in the earth, and then some. So before I describe my session with you and what came about of that, what the heck did you do to me?
So you came in for a session and we did the guide and focus in Technicolor, which is the thing that I discovered. And also known as, some people will call it GFT flow or gift flow. But you basically had a quasi-psychedelic experience, more on the feeling range, I think, but with no drugs. And it's designed to help you process through old hurts, anxieties, big and small. And then we also did a hypnosis and took you on a journey inside so that you could process what you had done in gift flow.
And that is a modality that you've put together, correct?
Yes, the gift flow is unique to me, although it has its roots in a couple of other very effective trauma modalities. One is brain spotting and one is somatic experiencing. Gift flow, however, is unique from both, so it's distinct, but it certainly borrows heavily from all of the beautiful work that masters before me did before.
So I didn't set an intention for, I did. Let me take that back. To deal with a personal situation, that was my, initial intention for our session. It went in a different direction though during all of it, because the first part of it, I saw an image. The second part of it, I saw another image. I'm going to explain how they were somewhat connected in their theme, or themes actually. Does that happen often? What I experienced?
Yeah, it's really amazing because people they'll come in with just, they know that they're going to, get somewhere down the road with this. And so they'll come in. The nervous system always has something in the queue, whether your regular thinking brain does. People often do come in with a specific something that they want to work with, and it will take them in a direction that they never expected. And that just shows you how interconnected our experience of now is to our history.
So what I experienced in the session was two images or two scenarios. The first one was me doing something that I enjoyed doing, or I enjoyed doing when I was younger, and it involved music. And we did our session on a Saturday. I would usually do it on a Saturday when I got older, in my 20s. Okay. And it was just, my happy thing. I look forward to it. And it was also creative and all of that. Then the other image I had, it about a half hour later, when I was under hypnosis, was me doing something else I enjoyed when I was in my 20s. And that was jogging on a school track. Not even my high school. I was in my 20s. It wasn't even the school I went to, but I would just go there. It's kind of just my place. And I knew that I was taking care of myself. I was exercising. I would just be in such a great mood. I would even jog backwards. I'm not even kidding. Can I do this?
Oh,
Let me
really?
try this. Let me go.
Wow.
It was in different shape back then.
Right.
But the theme I got from both of this, two of them that stood out for me, was that I was doing something that I enjoyed. Two things I enjoyed when I was younger that I don't do really anymore. And both of those things involved music, to the point where under hypnosis and the other modality, I heard the songs that I listened to in my 20s, specifically playing in my head. It was weird. It was like so interesting. But my takeaway on this was that, and you brought it up, is that I need to go back to that. I need to go back to that time where I was happy doing these things for myself, things involving music, all of that. Um, whereby now I don't do it. What's the difference now? Well, I do other stuff. I have way more confidence than I had then. I need to blend the two of them together. That was a takeaway.
Yeah, and for me, you just re-emphasized something that I've been acutely aware of, especially recently, is the need for a sense of play and a need for creativity. And these are abundant in childhood and almost without a second thought, but they become a distant memory sometimes in our lives. And it is an essential component to well-being to have your creative area that you either
Mm-hmm.
have it as your business, or you have it simply as something that gives you pleasure and fulfillment. And then again, as I mentioned before, children process difficult things in their lives through play and art.
Yeah. And interestingly, both of the images, and we have a guest that's going to join us, somebody that you've worked with in just a moment. Both of those things, I was alone. I was doing them by myself. A lot of times I'm doing things with other people, but then I realized, even back then I was cool doing it by myself. This is okay. This is enjoyable. So yeah, thank you for that realization. I need to put it in practice now. I'm going to bring in, it looks like it's Heather joining us,
Yes.
and she should be with us in just a moment. I'm going to make sure that she is set to go here.
Excellent.
Yeah. Who is Heather?
Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Hello there.
Hello, Marianne.
This is Steve. Steve, this is Heather.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Heather. So who is Heather to you, Marianne?
She is somebody who contacted me through the Brain Spotting website, I believe.
Yes.
And a funny thing happened is that my spam knocked her right into it. And I didn't discover that she had left me a message for a little bit. So note to self and others as well, always look at your spam if you make appointments with people. Fortunately, she was patient with my delayed response. And so we've been off and running ever since.
Wow. Okay, you said, did I hear this right? Brain spotting?
Yes, so she came to me for brain spotting. I think she got a little bit more than she was looking for. Um, Low, but she doesn't seem to mind.
Hmm. So I need to know, what is that? Heather, can you tell us what you experienced?
Yeah, I think it might be better to have Marianne explain it first, although I can speak to my own experience with brain spotting. You want to intro what brain spotting is, Marianne?
Sure. So brain spotting is a technique developed or something discovered by Dr. David Grand, and he is a resident of Long Island. He had been a very big practitioner in the EMDR world, which many people know. And if you don't know, go ahead and take time after the show to look it up. But
Mhm.
it is a desensitization process, the EMDR, to help people process through traumatic material. And David Grand discovered brain spotting back, I believe it's over 20 years now, and realized that rather than using a back and forth gaze, which is what people do with EMDR to process old material, he found that holding a fixed gaze with an elite athlete that he was helping, and she began to process at breakneck speed old traumatic experiences so that it could enhance her performance as an athlete. And it did the very next day.
Wow. Now, even before we get into, Heather, what you experienced, what brought you to Marianne? What was your motivation for reaching out?
Sure. So I had been doing EMDR probably about 15 years off and on. And I come from a traumatic childhood background, which is why I sought out this kind of therapy. And I felt like I was at a point where I wasn't going as deep as I wanted to. And I had kind of gotten as much as I thought I could out of it. And it was a functional medicine doctor of mine. I was actually working through some health challenges who had suggested brain spotting. And the thing was, is there was definitely a connection we were finding between my previous childhood experiences and my health issues. And so I actually began, and I don't even know if Marianne knows this. I might have told her it when we first started working together, working with a brain spotting specialist out in California. And it was very much the way that Marianne just described. It was fixating on one spot. And I felt like the thing with this particular therapist and what I find fascinating with working with the therapist is I didn't have as much of a connection with that particular therapist. I found the therapy, the modality very interesting, but I just felt like we didn't jive. I just wasn't getting as much out of it as I wanted to. And when I went on the brain spotting website to try and look for another therapist, Marianne was the first name that I found. I reached out to her and only her, and immediately upon meeting her, I just felt like a connection with her. And I really am someone who goes off of my gut instinct and instinctual feel about a person and whether it's the right time and space for that person in my life. And I felt that immediately with Marianne. And I thought it was really interesting that she was working on brain spotting in a different way than the previous therapist had been, which was really fixating on a gaze in my own space or through the screen, because this was virtual in both instances, on a particular space or spot, I should say, in their space. And Marianne was actually using something for me to fixate on. So she has, and Marianne, if you haven't shared this already, maybe you can share it as well. She has like some little balls that she'll use, like she's showing right now, that I can choose and fixate on. And I found that really interesting because for me, I felt like it allowed me to go even deeper with the work.
Marianne, go off to the side. I'm gonna have a conversation with Heather right now. I'm kidding. Because I didn't know that that's what I had done 4 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you started talking about fixating on one object, I started thinking, wait a minute, this sounds remarkably familiar. Heather, I can share my experience. When you were staring, and it seems so simple. You're looking at one object and just stuck on it. And after a while, it was almost addictive. Like, I'm not taking my eye off that. It's not like it's moving, but you're stuck on it. What were you getting from that?
The ability to go deeper. There's something about that focus that makes you go within in a way that is so remarkable and transformative. And I think what I love so much about this work is acknowledging that all the answers are already within me. And it's something that Marianne and I talk about a lot. It's just processing through that, and having that focus somehow enables me to talk through it and go through an issue in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting too, because what we work on is finding a particular spot that feels significant to me that day. So we may look at one spot, say upper right, and I feel nothing. But as we start moving around the room, the space, I might find a particular area that feels particularly triggering, and we may want to work with that spot today. Or maybe it feels too triggering for me today, so we might go to a spot that feels a little calmer. But in doing so, I'm able to really focus and to work through issues in a way that I've never experienced before.
We did the same exact thing. Were you seeing images during the session? What was coming up for you?
You know what? I don't. And that's so interesting because, and I'm sure Marianne can speak to this too, everyone probably processes differently.
Sure.
I think I'm almost, if anything, if we're saying images, I'm almost seeing in a weird way me being within myself. So it's almost like this weird feeling of being within my own thoughts,
Yeah,
which is really interesting, you know?
same.
Yeah.
When I say images, I saw myself doing something when I was younger. Not very, I'm talking in my 20s. I
Yeah.
saw it, and that took place after a period of time. I don't know, call it 10 minutes, whatever, where I found I zoned out, and then something came in,
Yeah.
and there was a theme. We talked about it before you got here, with something else that I saw during hypnotherapy. Did you have a goal to confront your childhood? Was that your intention for the session?
In some
Mhm.
instances, and we've been working together for a while now. So the interesting thing is, I think the goal with the session is often different than the results.
Sure.
So maybe something that I'm dealing with in present ends up going back to childhood because it originated there and maybe I didn't even know it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And my intention was something else. This showed up. This gave me perspective on some things I really should change to be even happier. Basically lasering in on this, what we talked about a couple of minutes ago was it was images or video. I said the word video and I disappeared. Of me when I was in my 20s doing things that I enjoyed,
wow.
doing things that I enjoyed. My happy spot, even jogging on a track. Like, that's not a big deal, but I'm all about music and have been. I've been on the radio playing music since I was 17. And these
Wow.
were all in my 20s. And I heard the songs that I listened to at those moments. Like it was weird, but cool at the same time. My takeaway is I need to go back to that. I need to go back to those happy spots of things that I enjoy that are
Mhm.
connected with music and all of that. This was virtual for you. I did it in person with her. She just happens to live, maybe I'm not even kidding, 12 minutes away, or her
Oh,
office
wow.
is. Yeah. So the object I was looking at was in person. You did it virtually?
Yes.
Hmm. I find that fascinating that we have a screen, and you're able to focus in on that one thing there, whereby in person, yeah, there's other things around, but it's more of a 3D feel, but it still worked virtually.
I think
Yes.
so. I think it works really well. Marianne, maybe you can speak to why that is, but I'm fascinated by how well it works virtually.
It is amazing, and of course, I have to speak of an episode that we had in a previous week, in which we also had a guest at that time, and the guest was a client that I'd only seen virtually, and had just met in person for the first time. And
Wow.
Steve was really surprised, and she was talking about how well it works both ways. And yes,
Oh, so wait, she did the same thing?
yes.
I see. I didn't know that. Now I know.
She also
And
sees, but she sees in Technicolor, and each person is different, but everybody reports feeling mesmerized. And that's the thing that
yeah,
is in a similarity. Each person has a different go-to for their processing mechanism, whether it's a visual aid or whether it's a visual picture from history. But everyone has this kind of, oh, I don't want this to go away kind of experience when they get really into the gift flow. And so, yeah, in terms of it working virtually, I've worked with people in different time zones and it works great. So
Hmm.
I've seen amazing transformations. And two, Heather, you can look back and, look at who you were when we started and kind of really be able to appreciate how far you've come through your own efforts. I simply held the space for you so that you could harness your own focus and grow yourself. And I wondered if you could speak to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. We were actually just last Friday, a week ago exactly, recounting an experience, a conversation that I had with my mother. And, I don't have a great relationship with my mom. It's a source of a lot of stress. But the interesting thing is that she's also a big trigger for me. So when we would have conversations, I would feel, and even just thinking about it just now, it gets me all kinds of worked up, lots of anxiety, and she just knew how to push my buttons. And then it would end up creating conflict because we'd end up having an exchange. And I was sharing with Marianne that I had a conversation with my mother, and I just listened, and I didn't feel anything, and I was able to just let her speak, hang up the phone, and move on with my day. And the ability to not react, I think, is such a major thing in life, because obviously, there's triggers every day and everything that we're dealing with. And the ability to kind of go within and find that peace and that calm within oneself and feeling more centered is what I've taken from this. And not only in my personal relationships, but just in life in general, I just think that I'm coming at life from a more stable place, which is huge, and something that I think obviously anyone, no matter where they are in life, can benefit from.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know what you're talking about. And it's a beautiful feeling when you get to that point. I call it my quiet calm. I remember walking out of this building, things going on in life, and looking up at the sun and saying, good now. Yeah. I don't have to worry about anything. And to your point, Heather, on my phone, on my home screen, I put on this like 2 years ago, just what you said. All I need is within me now. Yeah. All I need is within me now. It's all there. We have it. We can heal ourselves. We need help from others, but we're doing it. We're doing things are triggering us, but we're allowing it to happen. Yeah. Maybe not consciously, but it's how you react to somebody else, like your mom and me, somebody else. So I totally get it. So we're just about out of time. 2 questions. Heather, what state? Where are you?
Connecticut.
Oh, you're in Connecticut. Oh, didn't know. All right. We're in New York. And this is a random question, but I'm just curious. 5 colors that Marianne gives you for the object you stare at. What color did you choose?
Oh my gosh. I choose a different color every time we talk.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I never thought of that. Wow.
Yeah. It's just what I'm drawn to, and I always go with my first instinct.
Interesting. And I did. I've only had 1 session, but I never thought of it that way. And I wonder if going back, I would pick the same color or different ones. I can't answer that right now. I'd have to be in real time. But maybe it says something about us too, because this is an object that we're going to stare at for a period of time that's going to be transformative. So, what color is it going to be? Interesting. Fantastic talking with you both today. Heather, thanks for joining us and for your story and your transparency.
Of course. Thank you. It's nice talking to you both.
Yep,
Heather,
super cool.
Thank you so much for your time and your feedback. So much appreciated.
Marianne, how do we connect with you? We've identified that this is life-changing. How do we find you?
Yes, the best way to contact me is at my website, Insight Healing Inc. Insight Healing INC. And just send me a message and I'll get back to you very quickly.
And she promises to check her spam folder.
I will.
I do it all the time too. Now I don't even know I'm doing it because I don't want to miss, I have FOMO. I have email FOMO. You both, thank you so much. Have a great weekend and we'll catch up soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, both of you.
You too.
We'll
be coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
when I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.